The Supreme Court last year made it very clear that they plan to attack Obergefell, which is the decision that gave gay marriage equality. They're going to attack it and they're going to eventually send it back to the states. And we know that if you're living in a southern state like I am, Texas, these states already have momentum and laws, trigger laws in place. So if gay marriage is ever overturned, their laws would immediately go into effect because they're preparing for this stuff. They're preparing for it. You know, living in a southern state as a gay person is going to get harder. It's going to get much harder before it gets better. So I want to make this video to just warn you about what's going to come down the pipeline, because a lot of people are thinking, and wrongly thinking, that Obergefell can never be overturned because it's wildly popular in the US. That is false. It can easily be underturned, and this administration has already shown they don't care about what's popular with the US. They have an agenda, and they plan to execute that agenda to a T. Let's get into this content. Moment. Okay.
To introduce to you the 45th and the
Can you all hear the audio? If you can't, just put a comment and let me know.
47th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
I think it's so weird that they're doing the inauguration in the same Capitol that his supporters hosted an insurrection at just a few years later. It's kind of weird how they're doing it, but it's ironic.
Thank you very much, everybody. Well, thank you very, very much. Vice President Vance, Speaker Johnson, Senator Thune, Chief Justice Roberts, Justices of the United States Supreme Court, President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama, President Biden, Vice President Harris, and my fellow citizens. The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first. Our sovereignty will be reclaimed. Our safety will be restored. The scales of justice will be rebalanced. The vicious, violent, and unfair weaponization of the Justice Department and our government will end.
Do y'all believe him when he says this stuff? Like the Justice Department is not fair, they're being vicious, or he's just being unfairly targeted? What do you guys believe? Because I have my own thoughts about it, but he keeps saying it so much to where I feel like the majority of Americans now believe this stuff.
And our top priority will be to create a nation that is proud, prosperous, and free. America will soon be greater, stronger, and far more exceptional than ever before. I return to the presidency confident and optimistic that we are at the start of a thrilling new era of national success. A tide of change is sweeping the country. Sunlight is pouring over the entire world, and America has the chance to seize this opportunity like never before. But first, we must be honest about the challenges we face. While they are plentiful, they will be annihilated by this great momentum that the world is now witnessing in the United States of America. As we gather today, our government confronts a crisis of trust. For many years, a radical and corrupt establishment has extracted power and wealth from our citizens while the pillars of our society lay broken and seemingly in complete disrepair. We now have a government that cannot manage even a simple crisis at home, while at the same time stumbling into a continuing catalog of catastrophic events abroad. It fails to protect our magnificent, law-abiding American citizens, but provides sanctuary and protection for dangerous criminals, many from prisons and mental institutions that have illegally entered our country from all over the world. We have a government that has given unlimited funding to the defense of foreign borders, but refuses to defend American borders or, more importantly, its own people. Our country can no longer deliver basic services in times of emergency, as recently shown by the wonderful people of North Carolina, been treated so badly.
So for you guys that are now joining, I'm going to let him talk until he reaches the LGBTQ plus moment in his speech, and then I'll move on to the next video after that. Let's let him finish.
And other states who are still suffering from a hurricane that took place many months ago, or more recently, Los Angeles, where we're watching fires still tragically burn from weeks ago without even a token of defense. They're raging through the houses and communities, even affecting some of the wealthiest and most powerful individuals in our country, some of whom are sitting here right now. They don't have a home any longer. That's interesting. But we can't let this happen. Everyone is unable to do anything about it. That's going to change. We have a public health system that does not deliver in times of disaster, yet more money is spent on it than any country anywhere in the world. And we have an education system that teaches our children to be ashamed of themselves in many cases, to hate our country despite the love that we try so desperately to provide to them. All of this will change starting today, and it will change very quickly. My recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal and all of these many betrayals that have taken place, and to give the people back their faith, their wealth, their democracy, and indeed their freedom. From this moment on, America's decline is over. Our liberties and our nation's glorious destiny will no longer be denied, and we will immediately restore the integrity, competency, and loyalty of America's government. Over the past 8 years, I have been tested and challenged more than any president in our 250-year history, and I've learned a lot along the way. The journey to reclaim our republic has not been an easy one, that I can tell you. Those who wish to stop our cause have tried to take my freedom and indeed to take my life. Just a few months ago in a beautiful Pennsylvania field, an assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then, and believe even more so now, that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again.
Y'all see the Democrats, like they are not amused, they're not here for it. At one point, Biden starts to chuckle. Just watch this part in Trump's speech where Biden is like chuckling. I did notice that, Kamala's not here for it, her husband's not here for it. People just seem bored and just they're not with it. Let's continue.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That is why each day under our administration of American patriots, we will be working to meet every crisis with dignity and power and strength. We will move with purpose and speed to bring back hope, prosperity, safety, and peace for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day. It is my hope that our recent presidential election will be remembered as the greatest and most consequential election in the history of our country. As our victory showed, the entire nation is rapidly unifying behind our agenda with dramatic increases in support from virtually every element of our society, young and old, men and women, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, urban, suburban, rural. And very importantly, we had a powerful win in all 7 swing states. And the popular vote, we won by millions of people. To the Black and Hispanic communities, I want to thank you for the tremendous outpouring of love and trust that you have shown me with your vote. We set records, and I will not forget it. I've heard your voices in the campaign, and I look forward to.
But look, he said he won't forget their support, especially from the Hispanic community, but he's already doing mass deportations of Hispanic people.
Working with you in the years to come. Today is Martin Luther King Day, and his honor, this will be a great honor, but in his honor, we will strive together to make his dream a reality. We will make his dream come true. Thank you. Thank you. National unity is now returning to America, and confidence and pride is soaring like never before. In everything we do, my administration will be inspired by a strong pursuit of excellence and unrelenting success. We will not forget our country. We will not forget our Constitution, and we will not forget our God. Can't do that.
What does that mean? When you end a speech like that and you said he will not forget, we will not forget our God, what does that even mean? He's looking around as he's saying it. Does that mean he's going to work extra hard with these, what do you call them? These legalistic religious groups to help pass legislation? I'm just kind of wondering what that's going to mean for us in the future.
Today, I will sign a series of historic executive orders. With these actions, we will begin the complete restoration of America and the revolution of common sense. It's all about common sense. First, I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came.
So let's talk about that very quickly. Because I've heard a lot of Hispanic people mention this too. They don't, Trump refers to people who cross the border illegally as criminals. So I think when a Hispanic person hears that, they think of an individual who has broken the law. Like, they don't consider coming here illegally as, a criminal offense. but Trump does. So what I'm trying to say is when these policies come into play, it could be very real, potentially where we see the Trump administration say that people who are here illegally, all of you guys are breaking the law. Therefore, you all are criminals, regardless if you committed an offense while you're here in the States or not. You're still a criminal. So he's saying he's going to deport millions and millions of people. I'm sure there's not millions and millions of people waiting right now at the border. What does that mean? Like he's going to have to, create some sort of system to try to start deporting people who are already living in the States as well. So once again, I feel like this group of people voted against their own interests. And we'll have to see how this is going to play out. But they're not playing any games.
We will reinstate my remain in Mexico policy. I will end the practice of catch and release. And I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country. Under the orders I signed today, we will also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations.
I'm going to read a comment very quickly. This is from Nomadic Mariner. It says, I had a family member come across illegally and then came back legally. That family member isn't a criminal at all. They pay their taxes and high rent in NYC for years. Nomadic Mariner, where are they from? Where is their country of origin? Excuse me. So Biden does look sad. I vote for him too. I think he has a lot of regrets. I think he feels like the Democratic Party pushed him out, and he feels like he could have won this election. Regardless if he stayed or not, I felt like we were not going to win. If Kamala could not win, Biden for sure was not going to win. For sure was not going to win. So your relatives from Honduras. Yeah, man. I want to talk about this man before he gets on LGBT plus topics. I want to talk about this man labeling the cartels as a terrorist organization. That is a huge designation. Why? Because it gives us the right as Americans, as America, to not only if Mexico does not handle the cartel situation, but for us to invade and start to handle that situation on our own. So we could potentially invade a foreign nation, Mexico, right next door to us, if they don't tackle, quote unquote, stop supporting terrorist organizations, which means supporting cartels. So I'm pretty sure this administration is going to start doing some digging in terms of who in the Mexican government is tied up in cartel work. If you are, it's going to be like, too many of you guys are tied up in cartel work, we're going to declare war, something like that. Like they're going to find a reasoning as to why they have to invade and take advantage of Mexico. And I think it's wrong. Nomadic Mariner, let's see what you had to say. Okay. Yeah, man, trans people, like we're going to get to this. We're going to talk about trans people. And this is going to affect us all. Like I come on my channel and I talk about entertainment. I talk about romance for us gay people and getting married and whatnot. But we got to pay attention to policy and politics as well, because without this, we don't have the right to get married. We don't have the benefits that come with marriage. We cannot be out and proud. For example, just sex between consenting men was illegal, I would say, in the until the early 2000s, excuse me. So it's like we got to pay attention to this stuff. We cannot hide our heads in the sand. Let's let him finish about trans people, then we'll touch on that again.
And by invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, I will direct our government to use the full and immense power of federal and state law enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks, bringing devastating crime to U.S. soil, including our cities and inner cities. As Commander-in-Chief, I have no higher responsibility than to defend our country from threats and invasions, and that is exactly what I am going to do. We will do it at a level that nobody's ever seen before. Next, I will direct all members of my cabinet to marshal the vast powers at their disposal to defeat what was record inflation and rapidly bring down costs and prices. The inflation crisis was caused by massive overspending and escalating energy prices. And that is why today I will also declare a national energy emergency. We will drill, baby, drill. America will be a manufacturing nation once again, and we have something that no other manufacturing nation will ever have, the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we are going to use it. We will bring prices down, fill our strategic reserves up again right to the top, and export American energy all over the world. We will be a rich nation again, and it is that liquid gold under our feet that will help to do it.
I have a question for you all. Is this a good idea? Drop down in the comments, let me know. Is this a good idea to start drilling for oil again here in the US? I asked the question because other nations are already starting to take the plunge towards becoming fully electronic, such as China. So if we're not fully electric and we're still depending on an old energy resource, is that going to mean we're going to have an economy that's behind the 8 ball in the future? What does that mean for us in the future in terms of our economy?
With my actions today, we will end the Green New Deal and we will revoke the electric vehicle mandate, saving our auto industry and keeping my sacred pledge to our great American auto workers.
Let me address this comment real quick. So, Nomadic Mariner, you said it doesn't matter if we drill it here, we can refine the oil we drill, which is why it is exported. So, I was under the impression that oil comes from other countries like Mexico. We have, other countries that we do business with in terms of oil. They ship their oil here to be refined, upon which we sell it back to that country or Mexico in this example. So, yes and no. Yes and no to this question. It's very complicated, but it's figured out in a way that Mexico cannot refine their own oil. They give it to us, we refine it, we give it back to them, sell it back to them at a price. He's almost done.
In other words, you'll be able to buy the car of your choice. We will build automobiles in America again at a rate that nobody could have dreamt possible just a few years ago. And thank you to the auto workers of our nation for your inspiring vote of confidence. We did tremendously with their vote. I will immediately begin the overhaul of our trade system to protect American workers and families. Instead of taxing our citizens to enrich other countries, we will tariff and tax foreign countries to enrich our citizens. For this purpose, we are establishing the External Revenue Service to collect all tariffs, duties, and revenues. It will be massive amounts of money pouring into our treasury, coming from foreign sources. The American dream will soon be back and thriving like never before to restore competence and effectiveness to our federal government. My administration will establish the brand new Department of Government Efficiency. After years and years of illegal and unconstitutional federal efforts to restrict free expression, I will also sign an executive order to immediately stop all government censorship and bring back free speech to America.
So what does it mean for us as YouTubers? Like when I heard this, I got very excited. 'Cause I mean, if we could say whatever we want on YouTube and still be monetized, great. But what does this mean? So we have to see how this unfolds too.
Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents, something I know something about. We will not allow that to happen. It will not happen again. Under my leadership, we will restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law. And we are going to bring law and order back to our cities. This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
Okay, so I wanted to stop it there and talk about that comment for a minute. Man, there's so many, moving parts to this speech. So what I want to say is this: the foreign affairs piece. A lot of Americans, I feel like, have it wrong when they think about foreign affairs. They feel like we're giving away too much money to other countries, and I get it. When you think about it from the jump, it sounds like that's too much. Give the money back to us. But I would argue that it's done for a purpose. And that purpose is to ensure we have strong relationships abroad. Because when you give someone rule books about power. When you give someone a gift, they're automatically beholden to you to give you back another gift, to give you back something in return. So I feel like the giving is for a purpose. It's not like we're just giving our tax dollars away for nothing. It's for a purpose. Let me see what your comment said here. Nomadic Mariner, you talked about being bi. Okay. You talked about drilling. Guess it does not matter. We'll have to determine more about exporting that oil later. But yes, he's going to declare nationally that there are only two genders in the U.S., male and female. What does this mean for trans people and people like you, Nomadic Mariner, who date trans people? What is this going to mean? Does this mean that they won't be able to identify with the gender that they personally want to identify with? Does this mean that they won't be able to access, for example, if you're born male, you can't access female hormones until you're, 18, 25, whatever that is? What does this all mean? And what's the point of doing it? It's not like the trans community is a huge community in the U.S. It's really not. So I don't get the point of doing all this. I do want to discuss the impact that this may have on gay marriage, because some of you guys are thinking about getting married. Like I said at the beginning, if you're going to get married, I think you need to do it this year for sure, because something is definitely going to happen. And let me share my screen.
Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. On his first day back in the White House, President Trump also moved to roll back protections for transgender people.
Let me read this comment before we get started. Deshaun says, but see, they brought into this the kids. Even some of the LGBT people didn't realize it was all ages that were not. Yeah, like the kids are just a cover up. These people don't care about kids. They don't care about their own kids. They don't want to watch these kids. They don't want to be around these kids. They want to give these kids tablets. They don't want to teach these kids. They feel like teaching is the teacher's responsibility. When the kid gets home, they don't want to have nothing to do with parenting. They want these kids raised on tablets, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is. Kids are always used as a scapegoat when it comes to our community. Protect the kids. But it's like they're constantly being engrossed in sexuality, heterosexual sexuality, I would say, constantly. From the time you grow up, you're born in this world, the time you're a child, teenager, adult, female nudity or females, or let's say heterosexual sexuality is always put in our faces, always. Oops, Deshaun, you said because some of the LGBT, like this black dude that I unfollowed because I was trying to tell him that they were going to make a law where all ages will not be trans. Yeah, they will. They'll probably ban identifying as trans. He probably will. That'll be coming down the pipeline. I can see that too. You said no because molesters have access to kids no matter what gender. Yeah, they do. is most of the time it's straight people. Like every time you turn on the news, you see a whole bunch of straight people being arrested for assaulting children. And it's not like we go around painting all straight people as child abusers. We don't do that, but they do that to us. You said, see that you try to use gay people as a shield so that they can have access to children as long as they're straight doing it, which is a thing. It is. You're totally right. Okay, I'll read one more comment. I'll let her continue. So tell me why you don't have harsh punishable laws for people like that do that to children that will lose their freaking life over growing up. I don't know, man. I don't know why there are not harsher laws for children and people who abuse children. Excuse me. I'm not quite sure why, but they have such harsh laws for gay people. And I'm if you abuse a child, you deserve whatever sentence you're gonna get. Do you guys remember that crazy story that just broke about the gay couple, the two white men who were in a relationship, who were married, and they adopted two other young white children from a Christian adoption agency? And what they were doing to those kids, abusing those kids, making content with those kids, like it was crazy, but it blew up and became national news. National news. I probably have to show you guys that story later. Okay, last comment. Nomadic, you said heteros don't understand they are default. That's why pride even exists, because people are denied to be who they are. Yeah, totally. Let's let her finish.
He outlined part of his plan during his inaugural address.
It will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
To talk more about Trump's executive actions, we're joined by Chase Strangio, co-director of the American Civil Liberty Union's LGBTQ and HIV project, recently became the first openly transgender lawyer to argue a case before the U.S. Supreme Court. Chase, it's great to have you with us on this day. Explain what Trump is doing.
Yeah, so obviously you can hear from the rhetoric that was one of the centerpieces of his campaign, that he is targeting trans people by focusing on retrenching this notion of a fixed gender binary at the time of conception. So that came out in his inaugural address. And then last night, he signed an executive order, quote unquote, defending women and restoring biological truth to the federal government. Now, the audacity of having this administration come in, claim to defend women while defining women as the adult human female, which means the sex that produces the large cell at the time of conception, while simultaneously attacking abortion, contraception, and you can see in this language beginnings of fetal personhood. Now, this is one of the central problems that we're going to see in this administration, is a claim to be defending women by targeting trans people through a slew of policies that just seek to both eradicate trans people from civic and public life and also push trans people out of federal government in a myriad ways.
And one executive order also includes a directive that forces the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development to submit a policy for, quote, protecting women seeking single-sex rape shelters. Can you talk about this potentially putting trans people at risk?
Yeah, so there are many, many instructions in this one executive order, including this directive to HUD to issue proposed regulations to, in essence, exclude trans people from various forms of shelter system under the auspices that a trans person is an inherent threat to non-transgender women. Obviously, that just enhances the risk that transgender people face in society if we are deemed as a threat to others simply by existing. And the order also includes directions to, for example, the Secretary of State and Department of Homeland Security to possibly revoke the passports of transgender people because those passports do not reflect this quote unquote biological reality that sex is only binary at the time of conception.
And this is important because it's going to start with trans people, but what's going to be next? Our people, our community. Yeah, trans people cannot identify as trans anymore. They cannot designate trans on their passports. They have to go with their sex assigned at birth. But then it's going to be, oh, you cannot have this type of sex anymore. You can't engage in anal sex. You can't do X, Y, and Z. You can't get married to a man. You can't be involved with a man at all. So it starts little by little and just escalates and snowballs until it's out of control. Out of control.
Let me ask you about the executive order also requiring all government-issued identification documents, including passports, visas, and global entry cards, to be biological classification as either male or female. The significance of this, Chase?
I mean, it's hugely significant. Already last night, we saw from the Department of State's website the possibility to update your gender marker on passports has already come down. We know that people rely on accurate identification to move.
Thank you, Nomadic Mariner. Thank you. Nazi Germany. I was just telling my husband about this. On Netflix, there's a documentary about the gay community in Nazi Germany. I think it was pre-Nazi Germany, but it was very vibrant like it is today. Trans people were, they could walk around in dressing as the gender they identify with. Drag queens were celebrated. Gay people were celebrated. We had our own nightclubs, bars, businesses, etc. And that was gone in a flash. As soon as Hitler was elected, that stuff started to disappear in a flash, and people's attitudes towards gay people started to change in a blink of an eye. So you're right, Nazi Germany. We're seeing a rehash of Nazi Germany all over again. Deshaun said, well, that's what Walk with the Ancestors. Well, that's what Walk with the Ancestors, okay? Said on YouTube, she said that they're going to force gay people to marry straight people and have sex with them so they can populate, which don't make any sense. It's happened before. They call them lavender marriages. They're called lavender marriages. There's usually an understanding between the gay man and the woman that, hey, we don't like each other. We're just here to put up the facade of being married. I date men, you go out on dates, I go out on dates. We're not having sex. We're not intimate. We're just the illusion of being married, pretty much. A lavender marriage.
Freely through the country and around the world, this will put trans people at risk of violence. It means every time you have an encounter with the government, the likelihood that you will be outed is significantly increased. And then with that outing comes the risk of discrimination, harassment, and potentially violence. So trans people are bracing themselves for a lot of negative outcomes here, not just symbolic, but really material ones.
Your final
And
thoughts.
Chase, can you talk about the significance of the 2020 Supreme Court case, Bostock versus Clayton County, and how it could potentially lead to a more workplace discrimination?
Yeah, so Bostock, in essence, ruled, the Supreme Court said federal laws prohibiting sex discrimination cover LGBTQ people. Last night, the Trump administration rescinded President Biden's executive order implementing that decision. So this is just another way in which we can expect this administration not to protect trans people, but to target us. I know the community is scared. I know people are confused. And in this chaos, we just have to come together and build all of the forms of resistance that we know how to. But it is scary and it is alarming to read those executive orders last night.
Well, Chase Strangio, we're going to be talking to a lot in these years. Chase Strangio, co-director of the American Civil Liberties Union.
Okay. Okay, you guys, this is going to be a fight. I'm not going to lie. This is going to be a fight. This is going to be crazy. What's next for us? Like, what's coming down the road? Let's see some comments here. You were saying, Deshaun, that you were sensing that gay people are going to be bullied, killed, and all those things. She's a fortune teller. So you're giving me the words of a psychic who has told you such things, that people are going to be bullied, beaten up, and deleted. Okay. I don't know this psychic person that you watch, but feel free to drop their name in the comments. Welcome, Darion. Appreciate it. Happy birthday, by the way. You turned 35. Okay, happy birthday, man. Appreciate it. But yes, it's gonna get crazy. I don't know what's gonna happen to us as gay people. I do know that certain states like Idaho, have already started to pass anti-LGBTQ marriage defense laws or trigger laws. So if the Supreme Court rules that the states can now govern who can get married, who can be in a same-sex marriage, and who can't, laws are already on the books. You're welcome, man. Laws are already on the books to go ahead and outlaw same-sex marriage. I'll show you right now. Give me just a moment. Let's present this screen. Okay, this is from straight out of Idaho. Okay, it says an Idaho House Committee will consider a formal statement asking the U.S. Supreme Court to end same-sex marriage nationwide, and that will allow the state to restore its ban on such unions. I live in Texas. That's going to happen here too. If they've already started to prepare for it, that lets me know that this is probably going to happen, because they did the same thing with Roe. They started to prepare for it with trigger laws, and then it got to the Supreme Court, and then they banned it outright. So it's like, be careful, man. Just be careful out here. The court's 2015 ruling in Obergefell, was a landmark decision that allowed gay couples to wed across the country, even in states that still ban unions of people from the same gender. The ruling also was widely recognized as a turning point in Americans' views on same-sex marriage, which have become more and more favorable over the last 2 decades, according to a national poll. Okay, looks like I have to log in to read more, but as you can see, it's in the works. Trigger laws are in the works in Idaho. I'm pretty sure in Texas, we're going to have a ban. For you guys living in Georgia, it'll probably ban Florida too. All the people in ATL, I don't know what you guys are going to do. They're already banning certain websites that you cannot view. It's just going to be a very hectic 4 years. Let's see what you had to say here. Darian, I don't know what's going to happen with our community. I'm so scared. Don't be scared. Don't be scared, man. Just stay vigilant. Like, it's good for us to get on here and talk about entertainment, OF content, stuff that's happening in our community. But this is also part of our community. We have to fight for our rights, like the previous generations before us did. We cannot just drop the ball, give up, give in. We have to keep fighting, and we have to watch what's going on out here before they take away everything from us. Because, like you said, Nazi Germany 2.0, it's happened before. It's happened before. All right, let's see what else we got here. So this is how they are prepping the Supreme Court to go ahead and overturn gay marriage. So it's like it's in the works. I'm gonna give you guys some details. Let me share my next tab here. Okay. This is the prep work. So it says, if you've been paying attention, you know the Supreme Court is gunning for a Obergefell. The landmark case that held there is a federal constitutional right to same-sex marriage. And it's not a matter of tea leaf reading that leads to that conclusion, It's Samuel Alito's unhinged dissent in the case that he still can't let go of. In Alito's majority opinion overturning established precedent guaranteeing the right to reproductive freedom in Dobbs creates parallels between the rights established in Obergefell versus Hodges and reproductive freedom, as they're not deeply rooted in history. So this conservative Supreme Court is strictly looking at the Constitution from a conservative lens, meaning what were the original intentions of these amendments and these laws? Who did they have in mind when they created things like birthright citizenship? Who was it in mind? Was it the people that are having babies in the U.S. today, or was it for the slaves that were newly emancipated after the Emancipation Proclamation? Who was it for? So that's how they're reading the Constitution. And what we learned from the current court is they're totally chill with shredding precedent and issuing decisions wildly out of line with what the majority of Americans believe, as long as it fits their vision of what the country should be. So yeah, even though 69% of Americans support gay marriage, we should absolutely be worried about the rights enshrined in Obergefell. So they could also just take away the benefits of marriage. They could say, you know what, we're not going to give you tax benefits. We're not going to give you benefits for putting your spouse on your health insurance plans. We're not going to allow your assets to go ahead and automatically migrate to your spouse upon death. We're not going to give your spouse access to SSI benefits should you die. So there's a lot of moving pieces to this, but something is definitely coming. Brianna says, I hope they don't ban Tennessee gay marriage. Tennessee will be on the books to ban. They will definitely do it. Tennessee will definitely do it. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to, that's important stuff, you guys. Please be vigilant and mindful about politics. If you see anything about gay rights, our benefits, our rights, whatnot, and Trump enacting whatever legislation about it, let me know. Send it to me. You can see my email address in my profile. Just email it to me, and I'll do a video about it. So I'm going to talk about Bigo. All right, you guys, what do you think about today's video? Let me know in the comments below. What do you think about Trump's plans and his agenda for the LGBTQ plus community, especially considering we had so many LGBTQ plus people support him and support his campaign and give him his vote, gave him their vote. So I don't understand how we can support someone who has not been shy about wanting to do our community harm, So a lot is coming for us. And if you look at history, whenever there is large liberation movements in terms of LGBT plus equality, there's always a backlash period that lasts about 10 years. So you have a forward movement about 10 years. Sorry, the birds are making noise. LGBTQ rights will be progressed for about 10 years. We'll enjoy those benefits. And then the next administration comes in and we experience some regression. slight regression in terms of our right to benefits. So it's this cyclical dynamic that's been happening for centuries with the gay people, for centuries with gay and trans people. So I'm hoping that's not going to be the case. I'm hoping we get to enjoy our current rights and, expand those rights, because we need to. As a gay person, if you are not sticking up for trans people and not speaking out for trans people, what are you doing? If those people don't have rights, we don't have rights. So it makes no sense to try to delineate yourself from trans people just because you're not trans. Like, we're all part of the same community. We all need to help out and stick up for these people, because they desperately need it right now, because we will too in the future. And I know trans people would have our back, so we can't turn our backs on them. Anyhow, that's all I got for today. Wolf is back. Wolf pack. Take care. Peace.